ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ. ಹರಿ ಓಂ. ಶಾರದಾ ಶಾರದಾಂಭೋಜವದನಾ ವದನಾಂಬುಜೇ ಸರ್ವದಾ ಸರ್ವದಾಸ್ಮಾಕಂ ಸನ್ನಿಧಿಃ ಸನ್ನಿಧಿಂ ಕ್ರಿಯಾತ್. ಸದಾಶಿವಸಮಾರಂಭಾಂ ಶಂಕರಾಚಾರ್ಯಮಧ್ಯಮಾಂ ಅಸ್ಮದಾಚಾರ್ಯಪರ್ಯಂತಾಂ ವಂದೇ ಗುರುಪರಂಪರಾಂ. ಶ್ರೀ ಶ್ರೀ ಜಗದ್ಗುರು ಶಂಕರಾಚಾರ್ಯ ಮಹಾಸಂಸ್ಥಾನಂ ದಕ್ಷಿಣಾಂನಾಯ ಶೃಂಗೇರಿ ಶ್ರೀ ಶಾರದಾ ಪೀಠಂ ಇದರ ಮಲ್ಲೇಶ್ವರಂ ಶಾಖೆ ಹಾಗೂ SLN ಟ್ರಸ್ಟ್ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಇವರು ಭಕ್ತಿಪೂರ್ವಕವಾಗಿ ಸಮರ್ಪಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಭಾರತ ವಿಭೂತಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರವಚನ ಮಾಲಿಕೆಯ ಈ ದಿನದ ಪ್ರವಚನಕ್ಕೆ ತಮಗೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಭಕ್ತಿಪೂರ್ವಕವಾದ ಸ್ವಾಗತ. ಮೊದಲಿಗೆ ಎಂದಿನಂತೆ ಗುರುವಂದನಂ. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಎದ್ದು ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ. ಶಂಕಾರೂಪೇಣ ಮಚ್ಚಿತ್ತಂ ಪಂಕೀಕೃತಮಭೂದ್ಯಯಾ ಕಿಂಕರೀಯಸ್ಯ ಸಾಮಾಯ ಶಂಕರಾಚಾರ್ಯಮಾಶ್ರಯೇ. ಪ್ರಹ್ಲಾದವರದೋ ದೇವೋ ಯೋ ನೃಸಿಂಹಃ ಪರೋ ಹರಿಃ ನೃಸಿಂಹೋಪಾಸಕಂ ನಿತ್ಯಂ ತನ್ನೃಸಿಂಹ ಗುರುಂ ಭಜೇತ್. ಶ್ರೀ ಸಚ್ಚಿದಾನಂದ ಶಿವಾಭಿನವ್ಯ ನೃಸಿಂಹ ಭಾರತ್ಯಭಿಧಾನ್ಯತೀಂದ್ರಾನ್ ವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಧೀನ್ ಮಂತ್ರನಿಧೀನ್ ಸದಾತ್ಮನಿಷ್ಠಾನ್ ಭಜೆ ಮಾನವ ಶಂಭುರೂಪಾನ್. ಸದಾತ್ಮಧ್ಯಾನನಿರತಂ ವಿಷಯೇಭ್ಯಃ ಪರಾಂಗುಖಂ ನೌಮಿ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರೇಷು ನಿಷ್ಣಾತಂ ಚಂದ್ರಶೇಖರ ಭಾರತೀಂ. ವಿವೇಕಿನಂ ಮಹಾಪ್ರಜ್ಞಂ ಧೈರ್ಯೌದಾರ್ಯಕ್ಷಮಾನಿಧಿಂ ಸದಾಭಿನವಪೂರ್ವಂ ತಂ ವಿದ್ಯಾತೀರ್ಥಗುರುಂ ಭಜೇತ್. ಅಜ್ಞಾನಾಂ ಜಾಹ್ನವೀತೀರ್ಥಂ ವಿದ್ಯಾತೀರ್ಥಂ ವಿವೇಕಿನಾಂ ಸರ್ವೇಷಾಂ ಸುಖದಂ ತೀರ್ಥಂ ಭಾರತೀತೀರ್ಥಮಾಶ್ರಯೇ. ವಿದ್ಯಾವಿನಯ ಸಂಪನ್ನಂ ವೀತರಾಗಂ ವಿವೇಕಿನಂ ವಂದೇ ವೇದಾಂತ ತತ್ವಜ್ಞಂ ವಿಧುಶೇಖರ ಭಾರತೀ. ಶ್ರೀಮತ್ಪರಮಹಂಸ ಪರಿವ್ರಾಜಕಾಚಾರ್ಯವರ್ಯ ಪದವಾಕ್ಯ ಪ್ರಮಾಣ ಪಾರಾವಾರಪಾರೀಣ ಯಮನಿಯಮಾಸನ ಪ್ರಾಣಾಯಾಮ ಪ್ರತ್ಯಾಹಾರ ಧಾರಣಾ ಧ್ಯಾನ ಸಮಾಧ್ಯಷ್ಟಾಂಗ ಯೋಗಾನುಷ್ಠಾನ ನಿಷ್ಠಾ ತಪಶ್ಚಕ್ರವರ್ತಿ ಅನಾದ್ಯ ವಿಚ್ಛಿನ್ನ ಶ್ರೀ ಶಂಕರಾಚಾರ್ಯ ಗುರು ಪರಂಪರಾ ಪ್ರಾಪ್ತ ಷಡ್ದರ್ಶನ ಸ್ಥಾಪನಾಚಾರ್ಯ ವ್ಯಾಖ್ಯಾನ ಸಿಂಹಾಸನಾಧೀಶ್ವರ ಸಕಲ ನಿಗಮಾಗಮ ಸಾರ ಹೃದಯ ಸಾಂಖ್ಯತ್ರಯ ಪ್ರತಿಪಾದಕ ವೈದಿಕ ಮಾರ್ಗ ಪ್ರವರ್ತಕ ಸರ್ವತಂತ್ರ ಸ್ವತಂತ್ರ ಆದಿರಾಜಧಾನಿ ವಿದ್ಯಾನಗರ ಮಹಾರಾಜಧಾನಿ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಸಿಂಹಾಸನ ಪ್ರತಿಷ್ಠಾಪನಾಚಾರ್ಯ ಶ್ರೀಮದ್ರಾಜಾಧಿರಾಜ ಗುರು ಭೂಮಂಡಲಾಚಾರ್ಯ ಋಷ್ಯಶೃಂಗಪುರವರಾಧೀಶ್ವರ ತುಂಗಭದ್ರಾತೀರವಾಸಿ ಶ್ರೀಮದ್ವಿದ್ಯಾಶಂಕರ ಪಾದ ಪದ್ಮಾರಾಧಕ ಶ್ರೀಮಜ್ಜಗದ್ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀಮದಭಿನವ ವಿದ್ಯಾತೀರ್ಥ ಮಹಾಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಗುರುಕರ ಕಮಲ ಸಂಜಾತ ಶ್ರೀಮಜ್ಜಗದ್ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಭಾರತೀತೀರ್ಥ ಮಹಾಸ್ವಾಮಿನಾಂ ತತ್ಕರ ಕಮಲ ಸಂಜಾತ ಶ್ರೀಮಜ್ಜಗದ್ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ವಿಧುಶೇಖರ ಭಾರತೀ ಮಹಾಸ್ವಾಮಿನಾಂಚ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಯೋಃ ಸಾಷ್ಟಾಂಗ ಪ್ರಣಾಮಾನ್ ಸಮರ್ಪಯಾಮಃ.
ಗುರುವಂದನೆಯ ನಂತರ ಈ ದಿನದ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ತೆರಳೋಣ. ಈ ದಿನ ತುಂಬ ವಿಶಿಷ್ಟವಾದ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಅಂತಲೇ ಹೇಳಬಹುದು. ಪ್ರತಿದಿನ ಸಹ ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಭಗವತ್ಪಾದರ ಸ್ತುತಿಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡುವಾಗ, ನಾವು ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆಯನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸುವಾಗ ಶ್ರುತಿ ಸ್ಮೃತಿ ಪುರಾಣಾನಾಂ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಶ್ರುತಿ ಸ್ಮೃತಿ ಪುರಾಣಾನಾಂ ಆಲಯಂ ಕರುಣಾಲಯಂ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಈಗ ಶ್ರುತಿ ಇದರ ಒಂದು ಆರಾಧನೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರತಿನಿತ್ಯವೂ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಮತ್ತು ಮೃಗಶಿರ ವೇದ ಪಾರಾಯಣ, ಈ ರೀತಿ ಒಂದು ವೇದ ಪುರುಷನ ಆರಾಧನೆ ಪ್ರತಿನಿತ್ಯವೂ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಹಾಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ವಿದ್ವಾನ್ ಗಣಪತಿ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರಿಗಳವರು ಭಾಗವತ ಮಹಾಪುರಾಣ ಅದರ ಒಂದು ಸರಣಿಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಪುರಾಣಗಳು, ಅದರ ಪುರಾಣ ಕಥನ ಮತ್ತು ಅದರ ಒಂದು ವಿವೇಚನೆ ಅಂತೂ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಆ ಒಂದು ಸರಣಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಸ್ಮೃತಿ, ಆ ಸ್ಮೃತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮನುಸ್ಮೃತಿ, ಅದರ ಕುರಿತಾದ ಒಂದು ವಿಶ್ಲೇಷಣೆ ವಿವೇಚನೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಈ ಒಂದು ಸತ್ಸಂಗವನ್ನು, ಈ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರವಚನವನ್ನು ನಡೆಸ್ಕೊಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ವಿದ್ವಾನ್ ನಿತಿನ್ ಶ್ರೀಧರ್ ಅವರು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರು ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಬರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥಿಸ್ತೇನೆ. ವಿದ್ವಾನ್ ನಿತಿನ್ ಶ್ರೀಧರ್ ಅವರು ವೇದಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಅಲಂಕರಿಸಬೇಕು. ಈ ದಿನದ ಪ್ರವಚನ ದೈನಂದಿನ ಜೀವನಕ್ಕೆ ಮನುಸ್ಮೃತಿಯ ವಿವೇಕ, ಮನುಸ್ಮೃತೀಸ್ ವಿಸ್ಡಮ್ ಫಾರ್ ಎವ್ರಿಡೇ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ ನಡೆಯೋದಿದೆ. ಶ್ರೀಯುತ ನಿತಿನ್ ಶ್ರೀಧರ್ ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಕಿರು ಪರಿಚಯದೊಂದಿಗೆ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಆರಂಭ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀನಿ. ವಿದ್ವಾನ್ ನಿತಿನ್ ಶ್ರೀಧರ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ಪಬ್ಲಿಷ್ಡ್ ಆಥರ್ and speaker based in Mysuru. He serves as the director of Indica Center for Moksha Studies, an organization dedicated to creating, curating and promoting content on Hindu philosophy with a special focus on Vedanta. He has authored 6 books and 1 book chapter dealing with various aspects of Hindu philosophy and practice. His widely acclaimed books include Menstruation Across Cultures, A Historical Perspectives, Samanya Dharma, and Ishopanishad, an English commentary. He regularly contributes to various media platforms addressing topics ranging from politics and society to religion, culture, and philosophy. He also teaches courses on Indian knowledge systems at Indica courses. ಮತ್ತು ಅವರು ಬರೆದಿರುವಂಥ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಚತುಶ್ಲೋಕಿ ಮನುಸ್ಮೃತಿ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಲ್ಲರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಬಹುದು. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಒಂದು ಜೋರಾದ ಕರತಾಡದ ಮೂಲಕ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಅಭಿನಂದನೆಯನ್ನು ಸೂಚಿಸೋಣ. ಈ ರೀತಿ ಚತುಶ್ಲೋಕಿ ಮನುಸ್ಮೃತಿ ಎನ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಕಾಮೆಂಟ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಈ ಪುಸ್ತಕವನ್ನು ಸಹ ಬರೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರದರ್ಶನಿ ಹಾಗೂ ಮಾರಾಟವನ್ನು ಸಹ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏರ್ಪಡಿಸಲಾಗಿದೆ. ಭಗವದ್ ಬಂಧುಗಳು ಅದನ್ನು ಬಳಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತೇನೆ. ಇಂತಹ ಒಬ್ಬ ಯುವ ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರು ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಈ ಸತ್ಸಂಗವನ್ನು, ಪ್ರವಚನವನ್ನು ನಡೆಸ್ಕೊಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಮೈಸೂರಿಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಪರಿಚಯವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟು ಇನ್ನು ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಸಮಯವನ್ನು ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳದೆ ಈ ದಿನದ ಪ್ರವಚನವನ್ನು ನಡೆಸ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂಥೇಳಿ ಸವಿನಯವಾಗಿ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥಿಸ್ತೇನೆ.
ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ. ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ. ನನಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಮಾತಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿರೋದು ತುಂಬ ತುಂಬ ಧನ್ಯವಾದ. ಇದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಗುರುಗಳ ಅನುಗ್ರಹ ಅಂತಾನೆ. ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ವಿತ್ ಪ್ರೇಯರ್. ವಕ್ರತುಂಡ ಮಹಾಕಾಯ ಕೋಟಿ ಸೂರ್ಯ ಸಮಪ್ರಭಾ Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Dhatri Swaha Swadha Namostute Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine व्योमवत् व्याप्त देहाय श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः भारती करुणापात्रं भारती पदभूषणं भारती पदमारूढं भारती तीर्थमाश्रये विद्याविनयसम्पन्नं वीतरागं विवेकिनं वन्दे वेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञं विधुशेखरभारतीं श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम्. The topic I will be discussing today is Manusmriti's wisdom for everyday living. A very, very off the lane topic, because today Manusmriti is a very, very controversial text. The very word Manusmriti is very, very controversial and often associated with all sorts of negativity. Everything you find in our society, whatever bad you find in our society, every problem you are finding in society, the narrative is such that the cause of all those problems is Manusmriti, is the narrative, how it is being posited everywhere. I can recall the very recent incident. I think it was from Delhi University. They wanted to introduce Indian knowledge, our Shastriya knowledge related to law in one of the textbooks, and in one of the chapters as a recommended reading, not even in the main part of the textbook, but only as a recommended reading, they mentioned Manusmriti as a translation or some work just as a recommended reading. And that resulted in so much chaos, so much narrative, that the whole thing had to be given up. There was whole narrative, how can we promote Manusmriti? So in the last, I think for 100 years or 200 years, I would say, Manusmriti has become a book of towards which the way to engage with it has been to either burn it or to abuse it or to hold it responsible for all the ills of the society, or make it a conventional scapegoat, both by the enemies of Sanatana Dharma as well as its so-called defenders. So, but the question is there a way to engage? What is the purpose of a text? I mean, as in the beginning it was said, in the shloka related to Bhagavad Padacharya, we have Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam. So Bhagavad Padacharya is described as Alaya for not just the Veda, but also for Smriti and Purana. So just you go back just 200, 300 years back, and then for thousands of years, we have Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Itihasa Purana. They have been the three pillars, three tripods on which Sanatana Dharma has stood. If you read Shankaracharya in his Bhashya, Prashthanatraya Bhashya, has cited Manusmriti as many as 30 plus times. And he explicitly says at one place that he considers Manu and Vyasa as Apta, as trustworthy source. He takes their names together. Different acharyas over the last 200 years have always looked upon the Smriti Shastras as a Pramana Shastra, especially Manusmriti has been kept in high esteem, which is very, very contrary to how we perceive it today. So the question is then, what should we do about this? How should we engage with it? What is Manusmriti is the basic question. Because we have moved so much away from our own roots, the first question whenever I take the name Manusmriti is asked, why should we read it? What is its function? What is its relevance? What kind of a text? Some people say it is a law book which is no longer relevant because now we are ruled by a constitution and our IPC courts. Some people say, no, it is some lazy, evil group of people's just pastime fantasies. It has no relevance. It never had a relevance in the past and don't have a relevance today. So in all these confusions and chaos, we should understand, therefore, first question is, what is Manusmriti and what is its relevance? So, what is Manusmriti? Manusmriti is also called as Manava Dharma Shastra. So, Manava means that which is authored by, or that whose knowledge can be traced back to, in the Guru Shishya Parampara can be traced back to Swayambhuva Manu, the mind-born son of Brahma. Then there is Manava Dharma Shastra. Dharma Shastra. What is a Shastra? Shastra is any systematic presentation of a subject matter. Shastra is one which orders a field of knowledge or ties down all the different dimensions of a particular field of knowledge and presents it in a systematic manner. A treatise. In today's language, a scientific treatise. Not limited to the subjects that come under science today, but any form of technical treatise, a systematically presented treatise. So a Dharma Shastra would be a treatise which explains Dharma. Yavudu Dharma bodhane madutto. Anta pustaka. That is that textbook. In contemporary language, you can say it as a textbook. If we want to know about physics, first we study textbooks of physics. It may be a high school textbook or it may be advanced books written by great scientists, doesn't matter. But ultimately, that is how we gain knowledge. So Dharma Shastra is a high level systematic presentation of Dharma. The subject matter is Dharma. So Manava Dharma Shastra is such a kind of enunciation, such a kind of textbook on Dharma whose teachings originates with Swayambhuva Manu. The questions of when it was authored, what date, how many years old are of not much relevant. Because the current text that we have may be 2000 years old. But the knowledge itself, the Shastra, which the current text represents, is very, very old. It goes back all the way to Brahma himself. So it is Anadi. The Shastra is Anadi. The text we have may be dated, but the Shastra cannot be dated. So next question is, what is Dharma? With very brief comments on these basic fundamental things, I will start my actual presentation on how it is relevant for everyday life. So what is Dharma? We have all kinds of notions. Today it is fashion, become that. Take any popular concept today, add Dharma to it and assume that it has become Dharma. Take feminism. You say dharmic feminism, so then you present the same thing. But somehow you believe that now it has become Dharma. It has become Dharma oriented. You take any concept today, the fashion is to add Dharma to it and somehow act as if it has become Dharma. But is Dharma such a loose word that we can use anywhere and everywhere? Does it not have some meaning? Is it simply a colloquial term? Just like we use ice cream, we can modify ice cream and take its use at some different ways. But even there, there is a lot of experiments with dosa and such items, and the new products is no longer, it looks like dosa. It has only a name of a dosa. It is not a dosa at all. Just like that we are having with dharma. And things are worst here because dharma is not a colloquial terminology. Dharma is a shastriya terminology. It is a shastriya phrase. So we have to understand what does our Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, what does our Shastra Parampara tell us about Dharma. How does it define Dharma? There are many definitions. Etymologically we can understand its meaning. Dharma is dharayate iti dharma. That which upholds is dharma. What does it uphold? In Mahabharata and in Mahanarayana Upanishad, we have statements which say that dharma is that which upholds all universe. Dharma is that which upholds all living beings. But what does it mean to uphold? What does it mean to sustain? So these are all English terms. We can translate dharma as dharana, upholding, supporting, sustaining, nurturing. All different dimensions of the single term called dharma. But what does it mean in an individual context to say uphold, sustain, nurture? In the individual context, we have another definition from Vaisheshika Sutra. Yato abhyudaya nishreyasa siddhi sa dharma. Abhyudaya nishreyasa siddhi. Siddhi means accomplishment of, that which leads to accomplishment of. Of what? Abhyudaya and nishreyasa. What is this abhyudaya? It is well-being in this world, or well-being in the vyavaharika sense, in a material, mundane perspective. Nishreyasa is moksha. It is paramarthika, attaining of that from which there is no return, attaining of that wherein there is no sorrow, attaining of that state of jnanam, of aham brahmasmi or tattvamasi drishti, that is nishreyasa. So that spiritual or ultimate goal of life is nishreyasa, and dharma is defined as the means to attain it. Indirectly, says Swami Vidyaranya in Parashara Madhava, that is his commentary on Parashara Smriti. But it is indirectly because dharma leads to chitta shuddhi. It helps one to purify the mind. When you practice dharma, it helps to purify the mind. So dharma basically then is a reference to our actions. In an individual human context, it is a reference to our actions. And the phala, the result of those actions is abhyudaya nishreyasa. Abhyudaya is of many ways. Happiness that we experience in this life is abhyudaya, sukha. Happiness we experience after the death of the body in the form of swarga, that is dharma. That is also one of the fruits of dharma. Better next janma. Chandogya Upanishad says that if you perform right karma, swakarma in this life, then in the next life you have a better janma. So what is then dharma? What is then dharma? What is then adharma? Manusmriti has a very, very beautiful verse which says that, look, Prajapati Brahma created two buckets of actions. He created two buckets into which all human actions can be put. One bucket is dharma, other bucket is adharma. And what is the criteria? What is the criteria which defines them? How do we identify it? Dharma or all those actions which can lead to sukha, swarga, chitta shuddhi, leading to moksha. Adharma is opposite. It leads to dukkha, sorrow, naraka, and again birth in those forms which where suffering is more bondage, samsara bandhana. There is mukti in one bucket, there is bandhana in another bucket. So what does this show is that we cannot use the term dharma in a very, very loose manner. We cannot simply attach the term dharma to anything and everything. The source of understanding dharma, so dharma means it's about sukha, swarga and chitta shuddhi, better punarjanma. Can we see this Swarga, etc.? Can we see where we are taking Janma in the next life? Do we know? Can we see it by our eyes? Can we simply think it with our mind? Can we hear it? So, it is beyond empirical grasping. Atindriya. So, this whole Papa, Punya, Dukkha, Sukha, all these are Atindriyas. We cannot grasp it using our materialistic or scientific method. Scientific here is in the sense it is contemporarily used, like in a laboratory exam. How do you prove it using some experiments, some empirical experiments? You cannot do it. You cannot get it from Pratyaksha Pramana, you cannot get it from Anumana or simply using logic. Logic has to have anchor. Like you see a smoke on the mountain and assume, infer that there is a fire. So you are anchoring inference on Pratyaksha, direct perception. But that does not work here because it is Atindriya. Inference can be used based on Shabda Pramana. So all other Pramanas, be it Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Anupalabdhi, all these, Arthapatti, they do not work in the case of Dharma as well as in the case of Moksha. That is why we have Jaimini Sutra, it starts with Dharma Jigyasa, and then Brahma Sutra starts with Brahma Jigyasa. Because these two are to be understood from the Shabda Pramana, which primarily refers to Shruti. And based on those Shruti, we have Smriti, we have Itihasa Puranas. What is the difference between Shruti and Smriti? Shruti is that which Shruti is Nitya, it is infinite, it is always existent. It is the direct knowledge, direct perception of that. Direct here means not with your indriyas, but through an atindriya mechanism by the rishis, who are called drashtas, mantra drashtas. In deep meditation, through as a result of austerity, they were directly perceived that knowledge, or the knowledge was revealed to them. Again, these are all English terms, it has its own limitations. But the same knowledge which was directly perceived, but the same rishis later recalled this knowledge for the Loka Kalyana and reorganized them in the form of smritis, in a way which is useful for human actions. As with Vidhi, Nisheda, Arthavada, all these type of vakyas, do this, don't do this, etc. So that is what smritis. Then they were put into a kind of a compendium, encyclopedic narrative format, which became the Itihasa Puranas. Then we have Natya Shastra and all, which further takes it into the common, the last man on the ground. So Smritis are very, very important, as important as Shruti, because Smriti is based on Shruti. There is no need to see them as separate. In Manusmriti, there is a shloka which says that in the matters of dharma, Shruti and Smriti should not be disparaged, should not be criticized in the sense of using a wrong kind of logic just for the sake of it. You should not use what in modern academia is called as hermeneutics of suspicion regarding Shruti and Smriti, because they are the eyes from which Dharma shows forth. They are the source from which the light of Dharma comes forth. So with this introduction, I want to start the actual presentation of today with a PPT, which is about how Manusmriti is very relevant in our day-to-day life. So I will not go into the normal kind of teachings that is there in the Manusmriti, such as, we have teachings about Samanya Dharma, we have teachings about Vishesha Dharma, Varna Dharma, Ashrama Dharma, Varnashrama Dharma, Guna Dharma. All these different kinds of teachings are there. I will not go into all those things, but I will only focus on those aspects which are not highlighted generally, because we are made to believe that it is all anti-human life. So I want to focus on those aspects which can enrich our everyday life. So everyday life means we get up in the morning, we have our usual bath, etc., do puja and all, then do nitya karma, and then have our food and go through our day, go to office, work and all, come back. The whole dinacharya that we follow. How can Manusmriti, how does Manusmriti help us to enrich our life in all these aspects? Some thoughts. There is much more in Manusmriti. It has more than 2650 verses. I have only taken a couple of verses, perhaps some maybe 20-30 verses I have taken here and there, and tried to shed some light on various aspects of teachings that are present. So I'll go there and start the presentation and show you. Thank you. ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು. ಇನ್ನೂ ಒಂದು ಇಲ್ಲ. Before we proceed, we already saw what is Dharma and how Dharma Shastras such as Manu, Yagyavalkya, etc., we cannot understand Dharma without them, without Shruti, Smriti, etc. We cannot understand them because they are Pramana Shastras. Now, I mentioned Dharma is about human action. So question is, how should we acquire Dharma? How should we practice Dharma? Because Dharma is used in two ways. One is as the human action itself. The other is the immediate result of that action, which is in the form of Papa and Punya. If you do Adharma, it gives rise to Papa. If you do Dharma, it gives rise to Punya. So we all use this Papa Punya concept in a day-to-day basis in a very voluminously we do. Something bad happens, we say, Are, yen Papa madidno, Hindin janmdali, yen grahacharano. But that understanding has a Shastriya basis. It is a correct understanding. What does it actually say is, when you perform an action, it gives rise to the result in potency. So we do karma, say for example in the Veda they say Sarga Kamo Yajeta. So you perform yajna in order to attain Swarga. But Yajna is being done now. Swarga will come later. What is the logical connection between the two? Because action is finished. How do we know the Swarga will come? What is the connection between them? So the Mimamsakas answer this, that connection is the Apurva, which is nothing but it's the Sanskrit term Apurva refers to the potency, result as a potency. We call it as karma phala, right? Phala first has in the form of seed. And later it fructifies, it manifests as the real result. Right? So this potency is of two types, punya and papa. When you do those actions which are dharma, it gives rise to potency called punya, which in future will give rise to sukha, swarga and other things. But when you do adharma, it gives rise to potency or karmic demerit called papa, which again later gives us naraka, dukkha, etc. So the question is, how should we acquire dharma? Is it that we prepare for one day, let's say I will live my life however I want for 50 years, and then after 50 years I will do one big yajna, I will do some very big dana, some donate $100,000 to Tirupati Timmappa temple, and that's it. That is the big one-time dharma act I will do. So doing that in itself is dharma act, no doubt, fine. But is that how we should think about dharma? Is it how that one big act and our life is set, our future is set? The rest of the life we can do whatever we want, we can pursue our desires howsoever we want, we can even do criminal acts. That is not so. Manusmriti has a very, very interesting section on how you should acquire dharma. And it says, you should accumulate dharma shanaihi, shanaihi. Slowly, very, very slowly. And how? In the matter of what? It gives an example of the ants. How they slowly build anthill. Or even their food collection. You see, the ants are very small. They take very, very small portions and put them together over a period of long period. I mean, it may appear only days for us, but for them it is a very huge period. And they do it bit by bit, bit by bit, bit by bit. So Manusmriti is saying, we have to accumulate dharma in that format. It is not one big bang reforms kind of thing, one big bang action. It is all about small actions. It is all about everyday actions. It is all about when we get up in the morning, we have to take a sankalpa that we will try our best to align ourselves to the vision of dharma. It is not possible for 100%. We are living in a Kali Yuga where even 10% is a big achievement. And it is not just today. Even in Swami Vidyaranya's commentary on Parashara Smriti, he laments that we see in the Shastras how a Brahmana should live, how a Kshatriya should live, etc. But on the ground we are not seeing that. So does it mean we should give up on dharma entirely? We should simply follow artha and kama and live however we want? Then he answers, no, not like that. And he says that there is no need to be, vishada, have vishada about that ideal forms of dharma are not being practiced. Because he says, the reason is we are living in a Kali Yuga. There is a dosha with Kali Yuga itself, which makes it impossible to live dharma 100%. I would say that was so for all yugas in some way or the other. He says that what should we do? We should try to do our best. Try to overcome our own limitations, our own kama, krodha, alasya and other limitations which prevent us to do our own dharma, however limited format. Bhagavan Krishna in Bhagavad Gita also says, alpam, if you do even alpa, very little bit of dharma, that will also keep you away from great fear. So we should not be afraid, we should not worry that I am not able to do everything the Shastras say. Or people go to the other extreme. Because in my life, my choices have deviated from what the Shastras say, so let us abuse the Shastra as something which is not relevant, so that I can have some mental peace. I don't feel guilty that I have deviated, so let me say that this text is not relevant today. It is outdated. We need a new Smriti. Why don't our acharyas write a new Smriti? Right? Our Shringeri acharyas have mentioned many times that people come to them and tell them, why don't we have a new Smriti? And this is a very, very popular demand among the political, cultural, intellectual circles from Delhi to Kanyakumari. This is a very popular demand. The thing is, what they actually want is to legitimize whatever the current belief system is, current practices is as dharma. So the demand does not have sincerity because they do not actually want dharma. So coming back, Manusmriti says, Shanaihi. We have to accumulate dharma like that. For what purpose? For the sake of companion. After the death of the body, neither your mother, nor your father, nor your grandparents, or nor your grandsons, nor your wife, husband, lover, or anybody will come with you, nor your children. They will do your final samskaras, or they may not even do samskaras today. And they go back to their life. It is not that all of them are faulty. Even those who truly love their parents also, they can only do that. That is the nature of samsara. Once you leave your body, none of the people, none of the wealth you have, you might be Ambani today. You might be Elon Musk. You might be Bill Gates. You might be anybody who has hundreds of cars, thousands of property, billions of dollars, rupees or dinars, whatever it is in the bank account or anywhere, ill-gotten, well-gotten, doesn't matter. But it will not be with you once you leave the body. But what will be with you? Only two people are with you. They are your closest friends. One is Dharma, the other is Adharma. And you cannot get rid of any one of them. And it is up to you which friend will be Pahalwan and which friend will be the weak kind. If Dharma friend will be Pahalwan, then after that he will ensure that you will get the best sukha. Your trajectory after the death of this body will be good, will be meaningful, will be fulfilling, and your future secured. But if the other Adharma becomes the Pahalwan, then he will ensure that you will be taught a lesson. You will be taught, you will be forced to look back and understand where you went wrong. Regret the mistakes that you do. You are corrupt today and you will not be jailed. You might have murdered somebody and you are not jailed, or you might have genocided people in the name of jihad or whatever it is, and you might have escaped the human justice. But once you leave this body, the divine justice you cannot escape. Punya or Papa will ensure that you will get the fruits because they are with you. The moment you made a choice, that karmic merit or demerit as a potentiality is with you together. So, and it will be with you even after you leave this physical body. Therefore, to have Dharma as a companion, we have to accumulate it slowly over many, many lives. Only then we can even think about moksha. Moksha is possible here and now. But to attain it, We have to prepare ourselves for hundreds of thousands of lives through accumulation of dharma. It has to be shanaihi. There is no other option. You have to accumulate it slowly. Even your fast means are also slow in some sense, because you have to think for many, many years. And only when you have dharma as your companion, the man crosses over unfordable darkness. So you will be able to cross the ocean of samsara and attain moksha. Next slide, please. So the takeaway from that story is simply this, that you have to focus on your everyday activities and align it, orient it to the dharmic vision, to the best of your ability. You start small, keep it at it every single day, keep adding things as and when possible, and then over a period of time, you will have oriented yourself, anchored yourself in a strong foundation of dharma. And that is what today's session is all about, to shed some light on some aspects of dharma that are relevant for our everyday life. Next slide, please. The first section of this today's session is on etiquettes and habits. How do we eat food? How do we live our life? How do we do our actions? So I wanted to start with something which all of us relate to, something which is very, very simple, but also it can be very profound. Nobody can live without eating. People may live for a few days, but not beyond that. And we all love food. At least I love food a lot. Idli, sambar, vada, chutney is my favorite. And Ganapati loves food. He loves laddus, right? We had Ganesh Chaturthi. So eating food is very simple, but it can be very profound. And some of the things that I mentioned, there are many much more in Manusmriti on eating ethics, dining ethics, especially from ritualistic perspective, spiritual perspective. There are many, many more insights. But I have kept this presentation deliberately on purely what is today termed as mundane aspects, secular aspects of the issue. So one of the things, this is a very, very interesting verse which says, Ayushyam prangmukho bhunkte yashasyam dakshina mukhaha. If you want to have ayushya, longevity, then you have to consume food by facing the east. Prangmukha. So if you want ayushya, throughout your life, you eat food by facing east. The general prescription is to eat food by facing east only, the Shastra prescription. But these are special prescriptions for special results. But if you want yashas, fame, kirti, then you have to face south, dakshina. But if you want shri, if you want fortune, prosperity, everything that we can associate with Mahalakshmi, it's not just wealth, it's samriddhi overall. Then you have to face the west while eating. And finally, if you want to attain rita, that is satya or dharma or the ultimate reality of life, if your goals is spiritual, then you eat by facing the north. Is it not beautiful? Is there anything more beautiful than this? Can we have this knowledge from any other sources except for our Shastras? If it were not for the Dharma Shastras, we would not even know that sitting in a particular direction and eating food gives rise to a particular kind of merit. particular kind of punya which will help us to attain this Ayushya or Yasha or Shriya or Rata. So eating food is now no longer a simple activity. It is a ritual in itself. It is a dharma in itself. It is a yajna in itself. Just the sitting position will the basis of this sitting position can show whether we are aware of the yajika or the ritual nature of consuming food or not. Leave out all the rest. We have all the beautiful shlokas that we are supposed to chant before consuming food. Right? But the very basic thing shows us that how our rishis, how our acharyas have thought about food. And this is knowledge that cannot be gained from any other source. No laboratory scientific study will prove this because it is atindriya. Even if you get yasha or shri, etc. in this life itself, there is no way to correlate in a empirical manner that this practice led to that. So Shastra is our pramana. And how then is it all blind belief? No. When you start living your life according to Shastra, slowly you will start slowly realizing firsthand how these things function, how these things manifest in your life. The test of these practices of dharma is practicing it itself and experiencing it firsthand in your own life. Next slide, please. And here is another very, very wonderful shloka. This is from second chapter. Again, I might add here that many of these shlokas are given in particular contexts. For example, many of the hitavachanas that I have used in today's session are given for a brahmachari or given for a snataka or for a grihastha and all. It has its relevance in that context, but it has much more relevance as a universal principle as well. And it is not just my speculation. Even our commentators such as Medhatiti, etc. note at various parts of the verses in his commentary that this is not just for this person. This has a universal application. Manusmriti itself says that things can be generalized and applied universally, as long as the universal interpretation does not go against the contextual specialized interpretation. Now this is another beautiful verse. It says, one should always worship the food and eat it without disparaging it. When he sees it, when a person sees the food in front of him, one should always rejoice. One should always feel gratified and one should always welcome it. The food thus worshipped always imparts strength and vigor. But if eaten irreverently, it destroys both vigor and strength. How do we eat food today? By watching TV. Many of us do. Or watching mobile. Or often when the food comes, our first thought is, why did this dish was done by our mothers or wives or anybody else? Why was my favorite food was not cooked? So these are all very subtle, naturally coming emotions that arise in us. Because we have not been trained in this perspective from our childhood. Because these ideas have to be imbibed through practice. It is easier to become addicted to bad habits than cultivate good habits. But this is most interesting part of this is the notion of we should rejoice the food, we should be thankful to the food, we should welcome the food is not something that is only there in India, in our Hindu Dharma. It is there even among, very orthodox Christians. You see in the movies, they always thank the Lord and all. It is there even among the Japanese, the Koreans and all. If you are familiar with watching these animes or Korean dramas and all, they always, before eating food, they say thank for the food. I'm thankful for the food. Let us eat the food. They express their thanks. And we go a step further. We see the food itself as Bhagwan. Anna itself is Parabrahma Swarupa. But unfortunately, most of us are not aware of these ideas, aware of these attitudes, aware of this dharmika way of doing things. If sitting position itself implied that eating food is a yajna in itself, then this attitude further adds to that. We are rejoicing that we are worshipping that food from multiple perspectives. One is from mundane perspective, we cannot live without having that food. So we have to rejoice. See, Medhatiti says, why should we worshipping of food? The worshipping of the food may consist in regarding it as a source of birth and sustenance of all living beings. Without food, nobody can live in this world. It is a means of sustaining life. It has to be received with reverence. But there is much more. The food is an offering to the Agni inside us. Remember, it is a yajna. So we are offering, just like we offer the ahutis in the external fire, the food is also being offered to the internal fire. And if we do it with that bhava, and then that becomes yajna, full-fledged yajna. And that the Agni Devata can take to any Devata, that offering, whoever is our Ishta. So, the shlokas that many of the traditionally chant during, before consuming food, all express this idea. Some of them express this idea also. And the food itself is Brahma. It is Parabrahma Swarupa. That is even deeper. So food is the highest Devata. Medhatiti says food is the highest Devata. We have to look at it as the be all and end of everything. Next. However, overeating should be avoided. This is something that all of us know, but none of us practice. Gulab Jamun comes in front of us and we don't know how much we are actually eating. 1, 2, 3, 4. If it is at home, then the counting does not even come into picture. But if it is somebody else's marriage, then we are afraid that what will people say, though we will maybe stop at 4 or 5. Or maybe 1 or 2 secretly plus 2 will consume secretly. So overeating is something which is problematic. It is problematic for our health, but it is also problematic because it shows lack of self-control, lack of Indriya Nigraha. So towards the end of the presentation, I have a section on Indriya Nigraha. So Manusmriti says, one should not eat in between morning and evening food. So the ideal is we should consume food once in the morning, once in the evening before sunset. And from the health perspective, that is the best. But obviously, most of us have a 3 or 4 day consumption routine, right? We have morning breakfast, then afternoon lunch. Some people even have evening supper, evening dinner and night supper. So we have 4 or 5 times. But the ideal is this. one should not consume food between morning and evening. Matlab, only 2 times. One should not indulge in overeating. And it says very interestingly that overeating not only destroys health, but also it bars one from heaven. I mean, it prevents us from attaining Svarga. You might ask, how does it prevent us from attaining Svarga? It is very simple. What is the one biggest weapon or instrument that Bhagavan has given us so that we can practice our adhyatma, practice our dharma to attain moksha, to attain Bhagavan or attain Svarga? It is our body. Karma yoga is all about kaya yoga. Use the body as the means. That is what even yoga says. Right? If the body is obese, if the body is always falling ill, then can you sit for japa? Can you sit? Many people today cannot sit on the ground for more than 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour. But if you want to do real tapasya, japa or dhyana, you should at least learn to sit 6 to 8 hours. So overeating will prevent all those things. It makes your body weak, body unfit for any form of adhyatma anusthana. Therefore, it will prevent you from attaining Svarga. It will prevent you from practicing Dharma. Next slide, please. So, we will end the overeating or end the dining ethic part here. As I said, Manusmriti has much more ideas. It speaks about how you should do achmana, purify yourself before food, after food, and many other aspects of it are given. But the very essential message, I think, is very clear that if you want to orient yourself in a dharmika way of life, you have to begin in a very small things. And one such small thing is eating food. In what direction we are facing, what time we are eating food, and with what attitude we are eating food. Are we approaching food with respect that Annapurna Ambika deserves? Or are we simply approaching it with some form of negative thoughts or thoughts which kind of secularize food? They secularize the whole event. If it is the latter, then, as they say in Hindi, khana pachega nahi. It will not digest. I mean, it will physically digest, but it will not digest as a yagya. It will not be a yagika. So another very important aspect of our life, and I think a large portion of our life is dedicated to this, that is earning our livelihood, doing our job, earning money, maintaining our family. What should be our approach to this? How should we go about this? Again, these verses are from chapter 4, wherein it speaks specifically about the way of life a Brahmana householder should adopt in his life. So, some of the ideas you will see are strictly for Brahmana. But the essence of the teaching or the general direction that these verses tell us are applicable to all of us. Because after all of us have the same goal in mind. Our paths may differ a bit, sometimes it may differ greatly, but ultimately the journey ends at the top of Himalaya. Right? It ends at moksha. So what does Manusmriti say on our work attitude towards accumulating, work, livelihood, and earning our money. Adrohenaiva bhutanam alpadrohena va punaha ya vrittistam samasthaya vipro jive danapadi. Anapadi means in normal times, that is when there is no emergency, when there is no disaster, when there is no some form of problem. This problem could be individual. Suddenly we lost everything. A rich person loses all his money and everything, he comes to a street. That is a apad, emergency condition. Suddenly somebody loses a job. That is apad condition. Somebody is born as an orphan. That is apad condition at an individual level. But apad could be much more. Emergency could be much more. Like at a social level, at a national level. There is a huge inflation, there is a recession. All these are apad conditions at a national level. But whether it is a national crisis, whether it is a social crisis, whether it is a crisis in individual life or some form of trouble, accepting, leaving aside all those conditions on our day-to-day life, on our normal day-to-day life, how should one live? How should one earn our livelihood, our sustenance? It is by resorting to that means of livelihood, which ideally should involve adroha, no forms of droha, no forms of violence, no form of trouble. To whom? To all bhutas, that is to all living beings. If zero trouble to others is not possible, because it is not possible, it is rarely possible. Even our Shastrakaras knew that. Our Shastrakaras are perhaps the most pragmatic people there. So Manusmriti adds, alpadrohena, if zero trouble to anybody is not possible, then you try to find a way wherein there is alpadroha, there is as much as possible you minimize the trouble you cause to others. So this has a very, very broad understanding, a broad enunciation we can make here about adroha, alpadroha. It could be anything. Based on our living context, the understanding will differ. But the point is, you have to be aware of your situation, but you have to be aware of the consequences of your actions. I was just reading on social media yesterday. Somebody had posted about how he was an Indian who was posted in some software related job in US, and his work was basically to monitor and control and guide the propaganda on the internet. So he was paid millions of dollars to create algorithms which push content in the social media which are anti-brown people. And he was Indian, so he was basically a brown. He said, look, I feel very bad for doing this, but I got paid a lot. Means so much more that I basically designed this algorithm and I have now retired. So that was a choice he made. He made lot of money, he retired, yes. But the program, the algorithm, whatever he has designed, will have negative consequences to lot of people in the coming days. Or it may have, I don't know how old this post was or whatever it is. Doesn't matter. The point here is, are we aware about the consequences of our action? Does our conscience prickle if the consequences are causing greater harm? And are we okay with those harming others, or are we conscious enough to look for alternate options wherein the harm is minimal, or perhaps look for a different job? do we have that much mental strength to make that choice? So that is what this verse is intended to make us think on this, reflect on this. Similarly, there is another verse which says, for the accomplishment of bare maintenance, one shall accumulate wealth by means of one's own irreproachable occupations without causing trouble to the body. So it is not that you should not trouble others. You should also ensure that you are not hurting yourself. You see the corporate culture today, people are having heart attacks when they are 25, when they are 30, when they are 35. Why is this? Because there is a very high stress environment there. Either you do or you die. Or unfortunately, when you do also, you eventually die. So, do we really want, many people have left such jobs and they have taken farming. They have earned lots of money in 5 years by doing such high stress jobs, and when they are in their 30s, they have taken to farming. I know a lot of people like that. And the other high important part is bare maintenance. It need not be bare maintenance taken in a literal sense. For a Brahmana, that is the ideal. But for others, the Shastras do not say that everybody should live in poverty. What it means is, we'll explain the next verse what actually it means. Santosham paramasthaya sukhartim samyate bhavet. He who wants happiness should adopt perfect contentment and remain self-controlled. So that bare maintenance part is that not that one should not have aspiration, not that one should not have, we all have different mindset, right? Somebody may be very, very passionate about their work. Somebody may be very passionate about making wealth. Somebody may more concentrate on enjoying that wealth through various forms of pleasures. But some other person will be only focused on wealth. That person may not even have 1 minute a day to enjoy that wealth. Rajabhoja, in his, I forgot the name of his work, he divides people into these different categories. And Udata, Uddata, and Lalita, and some another category. He makes 4 categories of people. At the very end of the ladder, he keeps those who pursue artha for the sake of it. That is, their happiness is only knowing that I have so many $1 billion in real estate, so many $1 billion in a bank account and invested here and there everywhere. It doesn't matter that I don't even have 1 minute to enjoy it with by myself or with my family or howsoever. Their happiness is only in that, to know that they have this much big pocket, the big bank balance. Higher than that, Rajabhoja places those whose focus is on enjoying life. The means, they will earn money not for the sake of earning money, but for sake of utilizing it to enjoy life. Say, a lot of people save up money for 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year, or even 5 years to go on a world trip. Sometimes they save so much that when they come back from world trip, they're literally on the road. Right? But they're not worried. Their purpose is to enjoy, gain as much pleasure, kama out of it. Then there are those who lead a way of life such that they have the satisfaction that I am leading a dharmika life. I have sukha, but I also have contentment. Santosha is there, but also contentment is there. So it is this form here mentioned here. Ideally, you should live your life, you should have aspirations. Go big in the job, pursue career, pursue wealth, fulfill desires of your family, cars, houses, fine. But you should have contentment. Without contentment, there is no happiness. Then there is no boundary there. You are always in a state of, you fulfill A, then you get B. You fulfill B, you get C. And before you reach Z somewhere, when you are in H or F or K or P or whatever it is, you die. Because you cannot literally go from A to Z in this one life. And when you die as an unfulfilled soul. And the Shastras tell what happens to them. Rebirth happens to all of us, but they will have, for them the rebirth will happen in such a place wherein that desire unfulfilled is the only thing in their mind when they are dying. So they will be born in such a condition that desire has to be fulfilled first before they go further. But if we die at the end of our life, if we have our mind focused on Bhagavan, then where will we go? To Bhagavan, right? We may come back again if it is our punya is not that much, if our for meditation is not that fructified, we may come back, but at least for temporarily we will be with our Bhagavan, right? And our next life will also be better. So we have to have contentment in life. Similarly, again, it is reiterating what we discussed. One should not seek wealth by clinging pursuits or by contrary acts, nor when wealth is already there, nor from here and there, even in times of distress. So even if you have apatkala, emergency, we should try our best that we should not take up pursuits or those course of actions which is addictive. Like, you go to Mysore has a race course, I think even Bangalore also has. That is addictive. You can make money, but you can also lose money. You can play dice, you can play all these kinds of gambling things. You can make money, you can lose money. Many people do that. But that is addictive. And there are many such addictives. These are the extreme examples I gave. We should avoid such addictive means of earning livelihood. And we should of course avoid those which are contrary to Dharma, those which have been prohibited by our Shastras. And here and there, that is again questionable sources, making improper choices without thinking, without reflecting. So we should avoid such things. We should, simple thing is, we should put our brains to work. We should not act without thinking. Next slide, please. Now, after this livelihood section, some more thoughts on good habits. I was just speaking about addictions. And again Manusmriti mentions about addictions, avoiding addictions, or avoiding any way of life wherein you are not in a restrained manner, wherein you are pursuing some or the other desire recklessly. So in 4th chapter itself, Manu says, one shall not through desires become addicted to any sensual objects. Excessive addiction to this one shall avoid by mental reflection. So Manusmriti is not just your, agony aunt. It is not just crying, oh, don't do this, please don't do this. It is also telling us how to avoid doing it. So that is the most important aspect. Everybody can give this advice, don't do this. It's just like on a cigarette pack. Smoking is injurious to health. All the movies, wherever the scene comes of somebody smoking, they have a, message. Smoking can cause lung cancer. Aren't the smokers intelligent people? Of course they are, but they still smoke, right? So it is not enough to cry about it, it's not enough to tell about it, but we should also indicate how to overcome it. And that is what Manusmriti is doing. It says, one should avoid, doesn't matter what is the object of obsession, but whatever it is, wherever there is a scope of addiction, you should avoid it by mental reflection. There is no greater solution to this than that. I have heard of stories of people who, in order to avoid smoking, they started using electrical, cigarettes, and they got addicted to these electrical cigarettes. Then they took to this chewing gum, nicotine-free chewing gums and all. Then they got addicted to that. Why? Because there was lack of mental reflection. Mental reflection leads to mental conviction. And when you have that conviction, then you will make effort, conscious effort to get over your addiction. In some cases, such as drugs and all, these are more difficult because the drugs are chemical-based things that severely damage your neurosystems, damage your body. So that's a very different issue. But in other cases, even in drugs cases also, mental reflection and all will play a role, important role. But there it's more complicated. But in other cases, this is very, very important. I remember when I used to work in construction, for 6 months I was working in Bangalore itself. So in the construction site I was working, just in front of it there was the pan dukan. Those who make this sweet bida, Calcutta bida and all. And I have always been fond of this sweet bida, non-tobacco kind, simple sweet bida with gulkand and all. But usually, you don't have those, stores where you live, right? So you cannot, go and take it every day. But there, when I used to go to office, it was just beside there. So without realizing, I started eating 1 or 2 bida every day. So this went on for 2 months or so, and then I suddenly realized that this is problem. I don't have any addictions. Throughout my life, I have been addiction-free, never had any kind of addictions. Why am I getting addicted to this thing? Then I thought, okay, let me reduce this. Let me only eat this pan for 2 days a week instead of every day, that is 5 days a week, Monday to Saturday, 6 days a week. Instead of that, let me take only 2 days. So immediately from next week that started. On a Tuesday and on a Friday, I ate pan. And then after another month, I reduced it further, only once a week. And then I got transferred, so that whole thing, that attraction was no longer there. So what is not in front of you, it's as good as not present, right? So, but that reflection really helped, I can tell, from my own very immature experience, you could say. Next slide, please. Think, act, and present oneself appropriately. This is again something which our common sense dictates us, but common sense is not common to find today. So we have to take refuge in Shastra, right? One should wander about in this world, keeping one's dress, speech, and thoughts in conformity to one's age, occupation, wealth, learning, family. If you are visiting a temple, you have to have a certain decorum, certain kind of dressing sense. Likewise, the opposite, if you are going for a corporate office, then you have to follow the dress code, the decorum in the corporate office. Or if you are among friends, if you are going out on a picnic, then the kind of dress you do, the kind of language you use among your friends, it is of a very different nature. So you have to be, again, all of these teachings boils down to one thing. One should be conscious of one's surroundings. One should be conscious of one's own actions, one's own, how one presents oneself, what one speaks, what one thinks, and where one is, how others are perceiving. The more observant you are, more conscious you are, more in the present you are, the better you are able to orient yourself in Dharma. So all these ideas boils down to that single teaching. Next slide, please. Act wisely and contemplate carefully. Again, an extension of what we have been discussing. One shall not do an aimless act, nor one that is likely to lead to disagreeable results. That is, one should think before act. One should not simply go about doing this, that, and anything mindlessly, without giving proper thought to it. What we want, where we want to go, how we want to do, we should plan. And when you plan, when you give thought, when you are conscious, then you will realize that then you can avoid those course of actions which leads to disagreeable results. This, of course, does not mean that thinking should be used, thinking should not give rise to action paralysis. Remember our Arjuna, he is going for a war, he has been ready for waging the war, always, except Yudhishthira, every other brother and including and Draupadi, all of them were ready to wage the war, to take back what was theirs right from day one. Right? Nevertheless, when the war was about to start, Arjuna had action paralysis. The first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Right? Action paralysis. That was caused by too much thinking. Too much thinking often leads to wrong thinking also, confused thinking also, chaotic thinking also. So you have to be mindful of your action, but don't be too much mindful so much that it results in action paralysis. So in the construction parlance, they say, you first act, then you can think about how to rectify your mistakes. Right? So you have to balance things. And one good way to arrive at this balance, this samyama, is if you start your day in the very morning in a very conscious, contemplative manner. And that is what this verse that I have quoted is. One should wake up at Brahma Muhurta. Most of us don't do it, but ideal to do that. But doesn't matter, whenever you are waking up, the first thing we all do this, Karagre Vasate Lakshmi Karamadhye Saraswati Karamule Sthite Gauri Prabhate Karadarshanam. But after thinking about Bhagavan, after doing Namaste to Bhagavan, we should also do this. We should think or contemplate over the means of acquiring Dharma and Artha, of the bodily troubles involved therein, and also the true meaning of Veda. That is about Brahman. So just for 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, we should recollect our thought. Think about what are the things that I need to do today. What are my goals, life goals and immediate day goals? How to go about Artha, Kama and Dharma? How should I, what is the goal of the day? And also contemplate upon Bhagavan. on the tattva, Dharma tattva, Brahma tattva, so that throughout the day you can carry that thought in the back of the mind. I will again narrate this one incident from my life. Many years back, I had started studying Ishavasya Upanishad out of pure curiosity. And I was always drawn to philosophical understanding. So my job was such that I had to go at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning and come back at 8 or 9 or 10 in the night. So hardly had time to study. So what I did was, I started getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and dedicate 1 hour to study. Just, I used to study maybe half a shloka, some days just 2 words to try to unpack the meaning. But throughout the day, I used to reflect upon that. It used to run in the back of the mind. The first shloka is Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. So throughout the day, it would be in the back of the mind, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. Why is the Upanishad saying Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam? What is this Vasya? Is it inhabiting? Is it covering? Is it like the smell of the Gandha which replaces all other smells in the vicinity? Or is it in the sense of inhabiting? That is the way we inhabit a house, or way a Devata inhabits a temple. So all these ideas were in the back of the mind. So this brings clarity, this improves the quality of our life. If you are able to do this slowly, the whole day, the dinacharya is no longer mechanical. It is a sadhana in itself. It is a karma yoga in itself. There are many such meditations, such dinacharyas that our Shastra says that throughout the day you go on your activity, but you can offer all this activity as you do in a yagya to Bhagavan. Right? Do this with samarpana buddhi. That is karma yoga. So we can start small, shanaihi. You start with, I think there is one very wonderful story, I think it is from Bhagavata, I am not sure, about this great bhakta of Bhagavan. Narada asks Bhagavan, who is your greatest bhakta? Narada was expecting his name, but Vishnu Bhagavan says, oh, there is one guy. He's I think potter or something, pot making person. He is my great bhakta. And Narada was very shocked. He went and saw what was he doing. He saw that this person remembers Bhagavan's name only twice a day. When he gets up once, he says, oh Bhagavan, protect me. Let my day go well. And at the night before sleeping, oh Bhagavan, whatever I did, I surrender to you. Let my tomorrow go well. That's it. The rest of the day, he did not even remember Bhagavan. He was fully into his work. And Narada was angry. What, Bhagavan, you are saying? This guy doesn't even remember you. I am doing your smarana 24/7. I am always saying Narayana, 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 Narayana. Is not Nama Japa, smarana the greatest means to attain your anugraha? Why are you then saying this? Then Vishnu says, okay, let's do an experiment. And he gave this whole jug, this gada with water, and placed it on the head of Narada. He says, you go and do one brahmana of the bhuloka and come back without even one drop of water falling on the ground. It was full to the brim. Narada, okay, job accepted. He was very dedicated. He was sincere seeker. He was a great Maharshi, right? And he did his job well. He came back, see, look, Bhagavan, I did it. Yay! He expected that there will be some sort of praise. But Vishnu was laughing. He said, okay, job well done. How many times did you take my name? What Bhagwan are you saying? I forgot. I was so focused on this work. How can I take your name? You are asking for the impossible. So then Vishnu Bhagwan said, look, you did not even remember me once, but that person, he remembers me twice. So he is better than you 2 times as far as bhakti is concerned. So then Narada learned from his mistakes. So we start small by remembering Bhagavan every day in the morning and then recollecting our thoughts, being conscious of our day right when we get up. Next slide, please. Avoid destructive traits, adopt constructive ones. Again, this is something which appears very, very obvious. But of course, there are many nuances. Manusmriti at one place says one should avoid atheism, nastikatva. One should avoid abusing the Vedas. One should not abuse the devatas. One should not develop hatredness, lack of humility, modesty, pride, anger. In Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna says there are 3 gates to hell, right? Kama, Krodha, etc. So that is being repeated here. All this one should avoid. One should never do Nindana of the Vedas, Nindana of the Shruti Smriti Itihasa Puranas. And definitely not do Nindana of the Bhagavan. Be it Devi, be it Vishnu, Shiva, Kali, Ganapati. Doesn't matter. You have a Ishta, but you should never do Nindana. But unfortunately, that has become the default state of much of the Hindu society today. Wherever you go, you see, oh, Vedas were written in that years. Manusmriti was written in that years. They are not relevant today. We should write a new Smriti today. We are 21st century people. Why should we believe in all this superstition? Where is Bhagavan? Show me. Is he standing next to you? Show me. Right? So this is a kind of an agnostic, materialistic, so-called scientific temper which all our education system promotes us. Come Deepavali, suddenly all the nature-loving emotions suddenly become Jagrata, which was not there when they run the ACs or when they use the car, drive the cars or two-wheelers. Suddenly, the crackers are the only source of pollution which is causing destruction of the universe, right? Even our great my lords wake up then to ban patakas during Deepavali, right? This is another manifestation of Nastikatva. This is how the current Hindu society, the cultural, political landscape is. And this the Manusmriti is clearly saying is something which is very harmful to our society, our future. And then we have, this is another very important thing. Many of us do. It is very difficult to sit straight, sit calmly. Many children will be moving their hands, moving their legs, scratching something, this, that. This is human nature. But Manusmriti says this should be avoided. And not just with what you do with your hands, like legs, etc. But how you think, what you speak. Fickleness in your speech, fickleness in your actions have to be avoided as well. You think something now, you take a decision, tomorrow you again change the decision. And day after tomorrow you come back to decision A. This is our fickleness. Why they are problematic? They are not only problematic because they pose problems in your day-to-day life. lot of inconvenience to others, to your own self. But also they show lack of self-control, lack of indriya nigraha. Similarly, what are the constructive actions? Some examples of some good ideas in Manusmriti about constructive habits. One shall with one's speech, arms and belly, stomach, properly controlled, constantly devote oneself to truth, dharma, good conduct and purity. There are two things. One is one should anchor oneself, devote oneself to satya, truth, dharma, sadachara, good conduct, shaucha, purity. But how do we do it? It is through controlling your speech, vak, your arms, that is whatever you do with your hands and legs, and your belly, not overeating, not too much obsessed with food. That is, you should control your indriyas. Boils down to this. You can practice dharma only when there is indriya nigraha. In fact, Manusmriti in the very second chapter, before it begins all the teachings about dharma, it says very clearly, only when a person is able to restrain oneself from addiction to artha and kama, only then dharma bodhana is even meaningful to that person. He becomes eligible to dharma bodhana only when there is some form of self-control, some form of restrainment over one's pursuit of artha and kama. Without that, no amount of teaching of dharma is useful, because one is not able to pursue any of it. One shall treat the path of the righteous by the same way in which one's fathers and grandfathers have trodden. This is about, again, Kula Dharma, Kulachara. Why it is important to celebrate our own family traditions. It doesn't matter which community you are, which geographical location you are, what are the practices you have inherited. We should celebrate those practices. We should observe those practices to the best of one's ability, because that is also dharma. Next slide, please. So after the etiquette section, we come to the second section, which is social interaction. How should we interact with people around us? Our family members, our parents, our gurus, or even complete stranger. How should we interact with them? Next slide, please. Interacting with others, how we treat them, is at the heart of our existence, because we are all social beings. There is a famous statement, English proverb, but that same statement is also found in our Shastras. Do unto others what you want to be done to you. That is, if you don't want to be harmed, don't harm others. If you want to be treated fairly, treat others fairly. Right? So how should be our attitude towards family members? See, most disputes, most mental suffering, pain, everything happens between family members. Because those closest to us are who hurt us the most. And that is the reason why what was a joint family at one point of time has all broken down into nuclear family. There are advantages to that, but there are disadvantages to that also. But at the heart of all of them is pain, mental pain. There is a break in the family, starts with break in the minds. In regard to that, Manusmriti says, the teacher or the preceptor, the guru, the father, the mother, and the elder brother, they should never be disrespected. Irrespective of what they do, how they do it, even if they have treated you unfairly, even if they are treating you badly, you should not develop disrespect. The reason is, the teacher, the guru, the acharya is an embodiment of Parabrahman itself. It's an embodiment of Bhagavan, Parabrahma. Whereas the father is the embodiment of Prajapati. The mother is the embodiment of Bhumi. And one's own brother is embodiment of oneself. One's siblings, all the siblings are basically Atmaja of their parents, right? My daughter's name is Atmaja. Atmaja simply means daughter, one who has been born of a person, or born of the self of a person. Atma, if you take it as a self, once my daughter or son, they are born of my own self. So being so, they are embodiments of each other's self also, because they have the common source. So you should not disrespect them. Of course, this teaching has to be contextualized considering lot of today's situations. We have so many cases today of within the families there has been harassment, there has been lot of negative treatment of children by parents, of brothers by brothers, or sisters of sisters. So many things happen. And when a family has 4 or 5 children, the parents invariably love some more, love some less. Or the world is such that we are all equal, but some are more equal than others. We all know this. This is merely a statement of fact. So the point is, that is why the star here is there. One should not disrespect. That is, one should try to not bear a grudge to the best of one's possibility. One should not go out of the way to harm another person. Because if they are harming us, it is their karma. They will bear the fruit of their action. But in return, we are also harming, we will also bear the fruit of action. So we should not disrespect them. But does not mean that we cannot self-protect ourselves. Because self-protecting is also dharma. Self-protecting is the greatest of dharma. Everything else comes only when you are alive in the body. You can do prayaschitta for any adharma if you are alive. If you are not alive, if you are not in a functioning condition, then what dharma can be done? Right? So, not disrespecting family members when they are injuring you, when they are abusing you or ill-treating you, does not mean you are not protecting yourself. Does not mean you should not take corrective measures, whatever it is, which is appropriate. So that is why I said, the breaking of the joint families and into a nuclear families, it has its own advantages as well as disadvantages. The key is, if we are able to maintain harmony, maintain a mind-to-mind connection, love within a family, the physical proximity is not really that much matters. However, that cannot be an excuse to go maintain lot of distance also. Many people have elderly parents in India, they are there somewhere in US or somebody somewhere else. That is a proximity. There might be mental connection, but that mental connection is not strong enough to ensure that parents are not abandoned here, right? Manusmriti very, very clearly says that parents should never be abandoned in their old age. There is a very famous verse which says, when the daughter is young, it is the duty of the father to protect them. Later, it is the duty of the husband. When the mother is old, it is the duty of a son. And it is not just about mother, it is mother, father, everybody. You should never abandon. In fact, Manusmriti says that those who abandon their parents, the king is bound to punish them with fines. So this is what Manusmriti says. Next slide, please. So this is again what we are discussing, a continuation of them. How should one serve mother, father and guru? Manusmriti makes it very, very clear that as long as your parents are there, serving them, ensuring their well-being, facilitating their well-being is your highest dharma. If you are not ensuring that to the best of your ability, then all other efforts towards acquiring dharma becomes useless. Now this has a very broad paribhasha, broad application in your day-to-day life. Because today's situation is such that lot of complexity is there. Neither the father is an ideal father nor the mother is an ideal mother. So obviously the son or a daughter are not also ideal. Right? In a different context, the women are set, their duty is three dharma, which is pativrata dharma, seeing their husbands as the Parameshwara. But for a wife to see the husband as a Parameshwara, the husband has to inculcate some qualities at least of a Parameshwara, right? And this is not just my statement. Dharma Shastrakaras themselves say this. If the husband has deviated from dharma, then wife has to bring him back on the path of dharma. And she can do that by even refusing to serve him or do the Stri Dharma part unless he comes back to the path of dharma. Right? So there are such nuances we should always keep in mind. So what Manusmriti is saying, that the father, the mother, the teacher, they are akin to the three Vedas. You study the three Vedas, whatever punya you gain by that study, same punya you will get by serving your parents. Whatever punya you get by doing all the yagyas, a householder, a Brahmana householder has to keep this shauta, shauta smata yagyada ahvaniya agni and dakshina, garhapatya, and he has to do this yagya and all. Whatever, all those punya you will get by serving your parents. You can attain three lokas. The bhuloka, the madhyaloka, the brahmaloka. You can attain all of them by serving our parents. If you serve your mother, you can attain bhuloka. If you serve your father, you will attain madhyaloka, antarikshaloka. If you serve your teacher, you can attain brahmaloka. So then, serving parents, Shushrusha, to our own parents and our teacher, is a full-fledged path of dharma and adhyatma itself. You do not need to do anything else if you are doing already this. And if you are not doing this even a little means if you are mistreating your parents, if you are causing them pain, if you are making them shed tears, if you are abandoning them in Kumbh Mela or in an old age home, then no amount of dharma you do, no amount of Ganapati Homa or Satyanarayan Vrata you do will bear fruit. But if you are taking care of your parents to the best of your ability, despite all other situations, maybe your parents might have, you might have been the least favorite child of your mother or a father. But if you are not ill-treating them, if you are maintaining a cordial relationship to them, giving them respect, facilitating their life to the best of your ability, and then if you are doing all other kinds of dharmika, adhyatmika practices, then they will give fruits. Because you have done your duty. You have, because the Manusmriti at one place says, no matter, even if you live for 100 years, serve the parents for 100 years, even then you will not be able to fulfill the debt the rina that is there because they gave birth to you. They gave you as a Jivatma a chance to work out your karma in this loka. That debt cannot be repaid back. Even if you serve them 100 years. So if you don't serve them at all, then think about that. Next slide, please. Then another aspect is, how do you treat women in general? The women in your family. Again, this is very important. People often accuse Manusmriti as being anti-women. Accuse Manusmriti as saying, oh, all this Dharma Shastra tell women do this, do that. What about men? The fact is, Dharma Shastra is giving guidance for everybody. And in the very opening chapters, in the 3rd chapter itself, it has a very great section, very beautiful section on how the female members of your family have to be treated. And it will be equally applicable to how a person should treat any woman. A person who treats their sisters, mothers, wives, sister-in-laws well, such a person can never ill-treat a female person who is not related, who is a stranger. Women shall be honored and adorned by their fathers and brothers and husbands and brother-in-laws who are desirous of their own welfare. It is not just you treat your daughter well, but you mistreat your daughter-in-law. You have to treat everybody, every female members of the family should be well treated by the male members of the family. And of course, the opposite is also implied. The point is, everybody should treat everybody else in a civilized manner, in a honorful way, in a manner which is the Arya manner, in a noble manner. But this has a very special understanding here. Where women are honored, there the Devatas rejoice. Where, on the other hand, they are not honored, all the rituals, all the rites, all the spiritual activities are fruitless. There is no clear statement than this. Just like in the case of how you treat your parents and gurus, same here. If the female members of the family are not treated well, if they are suffering mentally, physically, doesn't matter. In such family, all the members of those family, all those who partake in those actions which cause suffering to the female members, they have their only consequence of their actions is adhogati. There can never be any unnati. Not in this world, not in the world after. Because it's a great adharma. In such houses, devatas will not even keep a leg, keep a toe. They will avoid it from kilometers away. No amount of japa, homa, puja will fructify. You might get up early in the morning and do all the nitya karma, all puja, or do sahasranama every day. But if you beat your wife, then nothing, absolutely nada, zero. There is no punya for you. There is only naraka for you. Where female relations live in grief, the family soon perishes, wholly perishes. But that family where they are not unhappy, they prosper. Prosper in this life, prosper in future family. Remember all those good stories from Satyanarayana Vrata, where the Sumangali is happy and well living and the whole family rejoices, whole family becomes prosperous, they earn fame, wealth, everything, right? The houses on which female relations not being duly honored, pronounce a curse, perish completely as if destroyed by magic. And this shapa, this curse, need not be verbal. It could be purely mental. It means that the tears, if the female members of a family are suffering, then it would have disastrous consequences to that family. It is as simple as that. And then it says, in a family where the husband is pleased with his wife and the wife is pleased with her husband, happiness will be lasting. So the crux of marriage, the crux of grihastha is the husband and wife has to be loving towards each other. They have to be pleasing towards each other. There should be mutual understanding, respect, trust, fidelity. And in another place, Manusmriti again reiterates that the essence of marriage is mutual fidelity. This is the exact words Manusmriti says. Next please. How about strangers? Always be accommodative of them and never disparage them. Never insult anybody. So that is the crux of Manusmriti's teachings. 2 different chapters, 2 different contexts. In the first context, the context is about when you are going on a road, to whom should you make space so that they cross the road first or they overtake you and all. What is the etiquette? What is the correct behavior? It says, way should be made for one in a chariot, for one who is in the 10th stage of life. That is, when one who is very old, or one who is suffering from disease, or one who is carrying a burden, or that is, some heavy loads, for a woman, for one who has just passed studentship, or for a king, and for the bridegroom, in the context of marriage, the marriage rituals, one is going for that. So this shows the attitude that we are interested here is simple fact that we should be accommodative of others. If our acharyas have already said this again and again, our Shringeri acharyas, paropakara dharma, parapidana adharma. So if you are able to help others, good. But if you are unable to help others, at least don't stand in their way. Make space, make way. So the gist is be accommodative of others. Try to understand others' situation, be conscious of it. If you are not able to help, fine. But don't be obstacles. At least give them space. Be accommodative. And it is not just about crossing the road, it is about all areas of life. Similarly, one should never insult anybody, be it a person who is a handicap, be it a person who is poor, be it a person who is uneducated, ignorant, or one who is without beauty, whom you consider as ugly, whom you consider as not coming from a good family, not following a good profession, whom you consider as not being born in a good community, whatever may be our vyavaharika considerations, because we are all social beings. We all judge people from one way or the other way. A rich will always, and that is why it is also said you should always dress and present yourself appropriately based on context, your conditions and everything, right? But judging is also human behavior. We always see and judge. We always say, for example, it is human nature that doctors will, go with doctors and engineers will be together with engineers. And this is just an example. In any other designation you take, there are hotels for the rich, there are hotels for the middle class, there are hotels for the poor people, poor class also, right? The point is, you should never let such judgments be turned into an abuse or an insult or a comment or a thought or action which causes pain to others. It could be any context. Abusing one because of their caste, their bringing, their profession, their wealth condition, doesn't matter. You should never insult anybody. You should always be respectful to others. You should never let your internal judgments on whatever ABC frameworks to blind you enough to think that you are superior somehow. Ultimately, we are all in this path pursuit towards moksha. Ultimately, we are all children of Bhagavan. We should never consider ourselves superior to all these things. If you are rich, you may become poor tomorrow. If you are poor today, you may become rich tomorrow. In this life, in next life, doesn't matter. So with this understanding, we should accommodative of others, we should be, but we should never insult others. We should never cause pain to others to the best of our ability. Next slide. And next section, I still have time? 15-20 minutes? Half an hour? Yeah, okay. I have 2 more sections to deal. I thought after speaking about this dining ethics, personal habits and such thing, I should also include 2 or 3 human values. The values such as ahimsa, satya, asteya, shaucha, indriya nigraha, which Manusmriti gives great importance. It has a verse, ahimsa, satyam, asteyam, shaucham, indriya nigraham. These 5 are called as a samanya dharma. That is a dharma which is for everybody. Everybody should practice this if we want to attain our well-being. So I have taken only 3 from them. Can you, next slide please. Satya, Shaucha and Indriya Nigraha. I won't go too detailed. I will quickly summarize. Manusmriti at one place say, Maunat Satyam Visheshyate. Mauna is good. Mauna is great. Mauna is one of the greatest spiritual practice that is there. But there is something superior to Mauna, which is Satya. Speaking truth is always better than silence. And this is especially applicable in our day-to-day life. And something which is very, very difficult for us. We have to put across small falsehoods here and there, everywhere in our everyday life. The idea is we should at least consciously try to minimize it. That is what Shanaihi is. Should try to minimize it. Avoid speaking falsehood where speaking truth is possible. We should not become addicted to falsehood. And how should we speak truth? Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat. Bruyat satyam apriyam. Na bruyat satyam apriyam. Speak truth, but speak pleasant. Don't speak truth which is unpleasant. As well, don't speak falsehood which is pleasant. This is the Dharmam Sanatanaha. Esha Dharma Sanatanaha. This is the eternal Dharma. This is the eternal teaching. It is not that speaking truth was Dharma in Satya Yoga, but today speaking falsehood is the Dharma. No. This is the eternal Dharma. You speak truth, but ensure that you speak in such a way that it does not cause suffering to the person to whom it is addressed. At least minimize the suffering. That is what speaking pleasant is. A doctor has to tell some patient that he has some disease. He cannot avoid it. But he can put it in such a way that it minimizes the damage. Right? And you should, and many people have this habit of gossiping. They go and tell bad things about their relatives. Oh, I saw this person here, I saw that person here. These are all unnecessary. Nobody asked you. These are cause unpleasant things, unnecessary. If there was some real issue, real cause, then that is a very different thing. So Satyam Bruyat, Priyam Bruyat. Speak less, speak truth, and speak pleasant. And we should always have this understanding when we are speaking that all things have root in the speech. That is, whatever we want to communicate to the other person, it is only through speech we are able to communicate. Therefore, we should ensure that our speech is not stolen. That is, our speech is not misunderstood, miscommunicated. And we also ensure that we do not misrepresent a position. Half-truth is also untruth. Next, please. So, truth, there is no need to go further. The importance of truth is self-evident. Likewise, importance of Shaucha is also self-evident. Shaucha could be external, it could be internal. External cleanliness, internal purity, all are important. Jnana, tapas, fire, food, clay, manas, all these are different means of purifying different things. Knowledge removes ignorance. Tapas or austerity, such as, all the prashchitta karmas that our Shastra say, helps us to get rid of the papa that we had committed, the karmic demerit. Likewise, food, a good food, a pure food helps to purify the body. The clay, etc., purifies the utensils. See, so a very great perspective, multi-dimensional perspective you get on the Shaucha. There is a long chapter on Shaucha in Manusmriti. And very importantly, what it says here is, among all the modes of purification, purity in regard to wealth has been ordained to be the most important. He who is pure in regard to wealth is really pure. How many of us can really say that we are not corrupt? Especially with regard to wealth. Corruption has been a bane, something which is widely pervading in our society today. But this was not so always. Even the travelers report 1500 years back who visited India, they noted the quality of Indians as being truthful, non-corrupt. But today it has become opposite. The second paragraph, again, I am not going to read it. It speaks about how different things purify, different ways one can purify oneself. Learned men can become pure by toleration. By liberality, by those who have done that should not have been done. Liberality is all about giving dana, charity and such things. If you have committed some papa karma in secret and you want to do prashchitta, then you do japa, etc. Water is purified by its own flow. That is the river. So much ideas are there. This needs to be detailed, studied and reflected upon. Shaucha is one of the very important aspects of our Dharma Shastra, of our Dharma practice itself. What we call in Kannada as Madi, etc. is an extension, is actually Shaucha itself. It is part of that Shaucha at the individualistic level. Next slide. And this is Indriya Nigraha. We have been discussing this from the beginning at many places. We have 11 Indriyas, basically, the 5 Karma Indriyas and 5 Jnana Indriyas. And then there is mind, Manas. All of them are together called as Indriyas. They are the sense organs. And Nigraha is about controlling them, restraining them, from reckless pursuit of sense objects, reckless pursuit of desires. This is what Indriya Nigraha is. And Manusmriti gives a very, very important perspective on this. As I mentioned, it not only says that this is problematic, it also says how to overcome it. It says, never is desire appeased by enjoyment of desire. You like one ice cream, you eat one ice cream. It does not mean your desire for ice cream got ended. You will feel like eating another ice cream, at another ice cream, right? And it's not just that. If desire A dies, then desire B comes. You fulfill one, the another different desire comes. So no matter how much you fulfill the desire, it is like a Rakta Bijasura. You cannot stop it by making friendship with it. You cannot become a friend of a Asura, especially not Rakta Bijasura. So you cannot be friend of a desire like this also. So you cannot appease it by fulfilling it. But you cannot remove it by forcible abstinence as well. In Durga Saptashati, when you see about how Rakta Bijasura was killed, you will see he was unkillable. The moment you struck him, the Bhagavati struck him with different weapons, one drop fell on the ground, another Rakta Bijasura's equal strength, equal look, equal tejas, everything, he came. Desire is like that. If more you force it, more you try to control it by force of abstinence, it may appear like you have achieved it, but it may be days, it may be weeks, it may be months, it will appear back. And when it appears back, it will appear with a Empire Strikes Back. If you're familiar with Star Wars movie reference, that it's like an empire which will strike back with greater force, greater magnitude. Many people, especially in the sadhana marga, in the yoga sadhana and all, they fall from their sadhana because of this. Because they have forcibly controlled their desires, especially sexual desires and other kind of desires, forcible practice of brahmacharya, but the seed is there, the seed of desire is there. You may go to Himalayas or a forest, but as long as seed of desire is there, that will not help. Going there will not give you moksha. Then how can you overcome desire? They can truly be controlled only through constant cultivation of knowledge. That is what Vairagya is. That is what Viveka Vairagya. The first two in the sadhana chatushtaya is Viveka Vairagya. Vairagya or dispassion generated from Viveka, discriminative knowledge about what is Nitya, what is Anitya, about what is beneficial, what is not beneficial. That kind of Vairagya alone is permanent. So, how does again Bhagavati kills Rakta Bijasura? It is Kali Swarupa, she swallows Rakta Bija. So no, she does not let even drop fall onto the ground. Whatever drops will fall, it is inside her body. Who is this Kali? Kali is Shamshana Vasini. Kali is that mother who is the greatest giver of Vairagya. Kali means Vairagya, Vairagya means Kali. That is why she is Shamshana Vasini. There is no space on the ground which represents Vairagya more physically, more visually than a cremation ground. That is why cremation ground is worshipful. For our Hindus, cremation ground is not something to be looked down upon. It is worshipful. From Bhairava to Kali to Tara, all They cannot be worshipped in the houses. In particular swarupas cannot be worshipped in the houses. You have to go to the cremation ground, because cremation ground is their temples. Because those paths require vairagya at the very heart of the practice. So vairagya is the way to attain indriya nigraha. So when you start on indriya nigraha, you start with self-control practice, but also you do it as a conscious practice, imbibing, inculcating the knowledge element. So that way, shanaihi, you will attain indriya nigraha. Next slide, please. And another aspect of this indriya nigraha is control of our vices. Some of the activities which are very, very problematic, and in the context of Rajadharma, Manusmriti lists these problematic addictions, these vices which are very, very problematic and can lead to our destruction, lead to suffering. And Manusmriti groups it into two buckets. One that is caused by kama, desire, and another which is caused by krodha. And what Manusmriti says is actually an elaboration of what Bhagavad Gita had said, that kama, krodha, etc., 3 gates to Naraka. How so? From the desire arises vices such as hunting, playing dice, sleeping during the day, criticizing others' fault, promiscuous relationship, intoxication, be it drinks or smoking or any other form of intoxication, musical triad, being addicted to singing and dancing and such things also, not pursuing them in a proper manner, but being in an addicted manner. Especially with reference to kings, we know this. Many kings stopped doing their, they did not give proper attention to the duties, but were rather interested in, watching all this dance, music and such things. You replace that with Netflix and Amazon Prime today, right? Same. Listless wandering. So all these are considered vices from desire. Among them, Manusmriti says that which has been highlighted in red, hunting, dice and promiscuous relationship with somebody outside of marriage or before marriage and such things, and intoxication. These 4 are most problematic one. And these 4 are the heinous of the vices that one should avoid. And how do you avoid? By indriya nigraha. Similarly, those arising from anger, creating, tale bearing, that is, disclosing secrets about others, so that out of spite, you don't like others, you will disclose their secret to somebody else. Violence, or in the case of the king, simply, punishing them just because you don't like them. Treachery, envy, slandering, misappropriation of property, cruelty of speech, cruelty of action, punishment, etc. All these are vices that arise from anger. And among them again, misappropriation of property, cruelty of speech, cruelty of action. These are the worst of the vices. And though it is given in the context of Rajadharma, this is very relevant to all of us. Doesn't envy, slandering, dice, hunting, these are, is it not applicable to others? It is definitely applicable to in others' context as well. So we have to be very careful, very mindful of all these things. Next, please. This will be the last section, last 2 more slides I have. Just included some maxims for well-being, some again key ideas, key thoughts in Manusmriti. Next slide, please. I have included 8 such maxims. Wealth, relation, age, action and learning. These are the 5 grounds of respect, gaining respect. or respecting somebody else, that which follows is waiter. That is, that which follows, that which comes later is more stronger magnitude, more stronger contender, criteria than that which comes first. So learning is the greatest criteria to respect somebody. Doesn't matter the age, etc. If somebody, even he is younger to you, if he is one of great learning, then you have to respect them. Action here refers to our anusthana, our living our life as per the dharmic instructions, the vidhi nisheda of the Shruti Smriti Shastras. Age, of course, is understandable, wealth, relation, etc. Now, another maxim is Dharma, Artha. This is very interesting. How should we pursue the Purusharthas? We have 4 Purusharthas: Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Should we pursue only Dharma? Should we pursue only Artha? Should we pursue only Kama or only Moksha? Or how should we pursue all? Especially here context is the Trivarga, Dharma, Artha, Kama. The similar discussion comes in Mahabharata also. What Manu says, first says, gives Purva Paksha, opinion of others. Some say Dharma and Artha alone are good, that is Shreya. They are the means to attain well-being. They should be followed, Dharma, Artha. Some say, no, Kama and Artha is enough, let us follow that. Some say, no, Dharma alone is to be followed, rest you can ignore. Others say, no, Artha is what is important, you ignore others. But the truth is, now it is giving its own Siddhanta. The truth is, the good is the aggregate of all the 3. That is, you should pursue all of them together. So your life should be a balanced life. It is not that you are only following Dharma or you are only following Artha, only following Kama. You have to balance them. Usually what happens in the Brahmacharya, you pursue Dharma, etc. In Grihastha you focus more on Artha and Kama. And in Vanaprastha and Sannyasa you focus more on Moksha. So this is general framework, not that you cannot focus on Moksha in your Grihastha life. But the point is, your life, howsoever you see it, be it as a dinacharya or as an ashrama dharma or as at different times of your life, if you look back in your life, you should be satisfied that I have pursued all the 3, Dharma, Artha, Kama, even Moksha, to the best of my ability, in a balanced way. Because if there is imbalance, then you are missing something. Moksha as the only pursuit is only for the Vairagis. For the non-Vairagis, it has to be balanced pursuit. The third one is also very important, a very good maxim. Nectar can be taken even from poison, good advice even from a child, good conduct even from a foe, that is an enemy, and gold even from an impure source. The point is, we should learn the good things from all sources. Irrespective of the sources, if we observe something good in some person or some action, or if we read something from somewhere in the world which we find is good for us, is for our well-being, now that reflection has to be done in a proper manner. It should not be a reflection based on mistaking our pursuit of fantasy or pursuit of sense pursuit as a reflection. No. We should reflect upon properly from the context of Dharma itself and then practice it, whatever is good for us. One should never shrink from reverence. Yeah, never. It should be never. As from poison. Okay. Yeah. No. What it is saying is, one should ever shrink from reverence. Here reverence refers to praise. You should always avoid praise as you avoid poison. And you should always seek for disrespect as you seek for nectar. It is a very interesting verse, because normally our nature is, we like when being praised, appreciated, and we don't like to be where we are criticized or abused. But Manusmriti is speaking about ulta, seek for disrespect. Here, seeking for disrespect does not mean that you go and stand in front of that person whom you know he will insult you, and stand there morning and evening, get insulted and come back home, oh, I got insulted. No, it is not seeking in that sense. What it means is, we should develop equanimity in our mind, sthita pragyatva, such that whether it is praise or abuse, we have to take it in an equanimous manner. And when somebody praises, we should not let it make our ego become huge. Similarly, if somebody is criticizing or insulting us, we should not be keep it in our mind. We should not cling to it. We should simply take it, okay, fine. At least this will help me in a way that I will not, my ego will not become a huge balloon. Fine, this is the good thing I will take away. Fine. If there is any good in the criticism, let me change myself. Otherwise, it's okay. Everybody has their own thinking. You should neither cling to praise nor cling to abuse. Right? Next slide, please. Yes. Yes, if there is a need, if there is a context that, if there is a, for example, if somebody is criticizing your work or your reputation of your action, that of course deserves some form of a response, some form of correction. If the context is there, yes. But the point here is, mentally, internally, you should not take those words to heart, because the moment you do it, it will affect your work. Somebody, if 10 people come, and people will always criticize you. If 10 people come and criticize you and abuse you, and if you take it to your heart and stop doing it, then that is also problematic. Right? Here the sense is, you have to pursue disrespect only in the sense that, from a spiritual perspective, you have to develop vairagya. Yes, yes, same thing. I mentioned about reputation, right? Yes. So that is from a vyavaharika perspective, I agree with you. The point here of the verse is that if we are thinking about our own spiritual internal journey, then we have to be such that neither praise nor disrespect will affect us. Even if you pursue disrespect, even if 10 people come and criticize us, it should not matter to us, because we have already that much dispassion in us. So that is the goal, kind of thing. Next, one shall not despise oneself by reason of formal failures. This is again very important advice. Until death, one should seek Shri, fortune, and one should never think her unattainable. So this is very relevant to all of us, because many times we make one attempt, two attempts, we fail, and then we lose heart. So Manusmriti is saying we should never lose heart because of our former failures. We should always have self-confidence. We should have Shraddha, Bhakti in our Ishta, in our Devata, and we should always try our best in whatever we do. Like Bhagavan Krishna says, do your action, leave the results to me. So take your former failures in that sense. Never lose your heart. One shall avoid such artha and kama as are opposed to dharma. This is again about that purushartha discussion we did. If there is a opposition, if there is a two course of action, one in which wherein there is opposition between what dharma says and what artha or kama says. So then we should opt, if there is no way to harmonize, then it is better to opt for what is dharma than to opt for what is arthakama. But again, there is another aspect here. As also, avoid dharma if it is conductive to unhappiness or if it is disapproved by people. This is again very important aspect. Dharma is very, very important. But what is the essence of dharma? That it is leading us to happiness. If a particular performance of dharma in a particular way is leading to unhappiness, then that is not a dharma for us. It may be dharma in an abstract sense, as an absolute principle, but in our situation it may not be dharma. If it is leading to unhappiness, if it is leading to himsa. There are many such situations possible. Similarly, if it is disapproved by people. So, practices such as niyoga, which were considered dharma at one time, the Shastras say that it is a dharmika practice. Still, it is Kalivarjya, not to be practicing Kali Yuga. One of the reason is, of course, people don't have capacity for it, but the other reason is it is disapproved by people. We do not look into it as a good practice today. So there may be many other practices. Over a period of time, many dharma practices, people have misused them, or the people who practice them in their ideal form no longer existed. It has fallen out of favor. So these are all happened. This is another one important maxim. All that is dependent on others is painful. All that is dependent on oneself is pleasing. He shall know this to be, in short, the definition of pleasure and pain. Whatever we do, whatever we achieve based on self-reliance is what will give us pleasure, contentment, happiness in its true sense. Whatever we do by depending upon others, to put it in contemporary language, by acting like a parasite which sucks from his host, can be only pain there. There can be no true happiness, because you like it or not, eventually you will lose self-respect lose respect for your own self. There cannot be happiness there. I think there is one Sarvagya Tripadi says, was it Sarvagya or Baswana, I am not sure. Banga Butamba Bisiyanna Kintalu Tangalave Lesu Sarvagya. So it was from Sarvagya, I remember reading in my school. So eating hot rice, fresh food in somebody else's house as a dependent, as somebody whom you owe to, it is better to eat tangala, it is better to eat leftover food than adopt such form of life of dependence on others. And finally, one shall perform with diligence that act by performing which there arises satisfaction in the inner soul, and he shall avoid the contrary. See, not all of us have studied all the Shastras, not all of us have studied even Ramayana, Mahabharata, or we don't have an easy reference to check upon the book what is Dharma, Adharma. So what is the means to go about in our day-to-day life? We have to rely upon our inner conscience. Bhagavan lives in all our hearts. If we are able to clear our mind of our Arishtad Vargas to some extent, then we can listen to the voice of that Angushta Matra Purusha who lives in our heart. So that is how, through inner conscience, we have to take the actions, perform it as to our satisfaction. We should not feel guilty about performing something. Next, please. With this, I complete my presentation. I just want to take few more minutes to speak about my book, Chatushloki Manusmriti. It is a commentary on the opening 4 verses. The book is available here. In the opening 4 verses, the book speaks about the purpose of the Manusmriti, the subject matter of the Manusmriti, who is the audience of the Manusmriti, what is the phala or the fruit of studying the text and practicing dharma? What is dharma? Next slide, please. All these are answered in the book. What is dharma? What are the authentic sources of knowing dharma? How practicing dharma is helpful? What is the end result? And what is all this about varnashrama dharma? We have this controversy about what is varna, what is jati and all. There's a long chapter on what is varna dharma, what is varna. And the study, it is in the form of commentary and independent chapters are there. And it references, cites, quotes from not just Manusmriti, but also from Vedas, Upanishads, other Smritis, Bhagavad Gita, Itihasa, Puranas, Jaimini Sutras and other places. It cites Acharyas such as Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Swami Vidyaranya, Kumarala Bhatta, even Sri Aurobindo and many others. So the book is available here today. It is also available on Amazon, Padega India, Hindu eShop, on other major bookstores in Bangalore and other places also across India, even in US and UK and other places also. Please do check out the book, read the book, share with your friends, family and other dharmikas. I believe it is very important work because if you want to revive Hindu drishti, our own drishti, if you want to revive Sanatana Bharatiya civilization, we have to give space to Dharma Shastra for discussion, for developing our cultural, religious, socio-political space. We have to give space to our Dharma Pramanas. With this, I end my session. Thank you very much. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
ಇಷ್ಟು ಹೊತ್ತು ಯುವ ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರಾದಂತಹ ವಿದ್ವಾನ್ ನಿತಿನ್ ಶ್ರೀಧರ್ ಅವರು ಒಂದು ಪಥದರ್ಶಕವಾದಂತಹ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸವನ್ನು ನೀಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ತಪ್ಪಾಗಲಾರದು. ಇದು ಒಂದು ಪಥದರ್ಶಕವಾದಂತಹ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ. ಧಾರ್ಮಿಕವಾಗಿ ಹಾಗೂ ಸಾಂಸ್ಕೃತಿಕವಾಗಿ, ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕವಾಗಿ ಈ ಮೂರೂ ಆಯಾಮಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ರೀತಿಯಾದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸಗಳು ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಹೆಚ್ಚು ನಡೀಬೇಕು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ, ಧಾರ್ಮಿಕವಾಗಿ, ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕವಾಗಿ, ಸಾಂಸ್ಕೃತಿಕವಾಗಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ಗ್ರಂಥಗಳ ಈ ಒಂದು ಥಾಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಅದರ ಪುನರುತ್ಥಾನ ನಡಿಲೇಬೇಕು. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಇಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಮನುಸ್ಮೃತಿ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತಿಳಿದುಕೊಂಡ್ವಿ. ಈ ಮನುಸ್ಮೃತಿಯನ್ನು ಸುಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇದರಷ್ಟು ಸುಟ್ಟಿರುವಂತಹ ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕೆ ಜನ ಅದನ್ನು ಸುಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಅರ್ಥೈಸಿಕೊಂಡಿಲ್ಲ, ಅದನ್ನು ಯಾರೂ ಓದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಓದದೆ ಅಧ್ಯಯನವಾಗದೆ ಆಗಿರೋಂಥ ಅನರ್ಥ ಇದು. ಈ ಮನುಸ್ಮೃತಿಯನ್ನು ಸುಟ್ಟಿರೋ ದಾಖಲೆಗಳಿವೆ. ಮತ್ತು ರಾಜಸ್ಥಾನದ ನ್ಯಾಯಾಲಯದ ಮುಂದೆ ಮನುವಿನ ಒಂದು ವಿಗ್ರಹವನ್ನು, ಒಂದು ಮೂರ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ಸ್ಥಾಪನೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮನುವಿನ ಮೂರ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ಸ್ಥಾಪನೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕೋರ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಸ್ಗಳಿವೆ, ಆ ಮೂರ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ತೆಗಿಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಅದೃಷ್ಟವಶಾತ್ ನ್ಯಾಯಾಲಯ ಏನು ತೀರ್ಪು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಆ ವಿಗ್ರಹವನ್ನು ತೆಗಿಬಾರ್ದು. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಮನು ಇಂತಹ ಒಬ್ಬ ಪಥದರ್ಶಕವಾಗಿ ನಮಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರುವಂಥವನು ತೆಗಿಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಅದೃಷ್ಟವಶಾತ್ ಬಂತು. ಯಾಕೆ ಈ ಮೌಢ್ಯ ಇದೆ ಸಮಾಜದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಇಂಥ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸಗಳು ನಡೀತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನೋಡಿ, ಎಟಿಕೆಟ್, ಡೈನಿಂಗ್ ಎಟಿಕೆಟ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿಮ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ವೆಲ್ ಬೀಯಿಂಗ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಇಂಟರಾಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಎಷ್ಟು ಒಂದು ಮಾಧುರ್ಯದಿಂದ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಇದನ್ನು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳದೆ ಇದನ್ನು ಸುಡೋವಂಥದ್ದಾಗಲಿ, ಆ ಮನುವಿನ ಒಂದು ವಿಗ್ರಹಕ್ಕೆ ಕಪ್ಪು ಮಸಿಯನ್ನು ಬಳಿದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈ ರೀತಿ ಕೃತ್ಯಗಳು ನಿಲ್ಲಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಯುವ ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರು ಇದನ್ನು ಅಧ್ಯಯನಕ್ಕೆ ಒಳಗಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು. ಮತ್ತು ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಅಧ್ಯಯನದ ಶಿಸ್ತು ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ನೋಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಸುಮಾರು 30-35 ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಒಂದೊಂದನ್ನು ಆಯ್ದುಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದು ಇಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಯಾರು ಸದ್ಭಕ್ತರಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಸಹೃದಯರಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅವರಿಗೆ ವಿಷಯವನ್ನು ತಲುಪಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಇದು ತಲುಪಿಸದೆ ಹೋದರೆ ಸಮಾಜಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುವಂಥ ಅನರ್ಥ ಏನು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ನಾವು ತಿಳ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಮತ್ತು ಈ ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಚತುಶ್ಲೋಕಿ ಮನುಸ್ಮೃತಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಸಂಗತಿ ಏನಪ್ಪ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಭಾರತದ ಅರ್ಥ ಸಚಿವರಾಗಿರುವಂತಹ, ಫೈನಾನ್ಸ್ ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ನಿರ್ಮಲಾ ಸೀತಾರಾಮನ್ ಅವರು ಈ ಪುಸ್ತಕದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಬರೀತಾರೆ. ಮತ್ತು ಬಹಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ದೊಡ್ಡ ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರು, ಬಿಬೇಕ್ ದೇಬರಾಯ್ ಅವರು, ಇನ್ನೂ ಯಾರು ಭಾರತೀಯ ಜ್ಞಾನ ಪರಂಪರೆ ಅಂತ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಅಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರು ಈ ಪುಸ್ತಕದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅಂತಹ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯ ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ನಿರ್ಮಲಾ ಸೀತಾರಾಮನ್ ಇನ್ನೂ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಜನ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಧಾರ್ಮಿಕವಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಹೆಂಗೆ ನಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕಾಗಲಿ, ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕವಾಗಲಿ ಸಾಂಸ್ಕೃತಿಕವಾಗಲಿ, ದಿಸ್ ಶುಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಬಿ ಎ ರೆಲಿಕ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಪಾಸ್ಟ್, ಬಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ಎ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಡಾಕ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್. ನಾವಿದನ್ನು ಅನುಭವಿಸಬೇಕು, ನಾವಿದನ್ನು ಜೀವಿಸಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಅರ್ಥದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ದಿನದ ಒಂದು ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಅರ್ಥಪೂರ್ಣವಾಗಿ ಮೂಡಿಬಂದಿದೆ. ವಿದ್ವಾನ್ ನಿತಿನ್ ಶ್ರೀಧರ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ SLN ಟ್ರಸ್ಟ್ ಹಾಗೂ ಶ್ರೀಮಠದ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಗೌರವ ಸಮರ್ಪಣೆ. ಇನ್ನು ನಾಳಿನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಸಲಹೌ ತಾಯೇ ಶ್ರೀ ಚಾಮುಂಡೇಶ್ವರಿ. ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಮುತ್ತಯ್ಯ ಭಾಗವತರವರ ದೇವಿ ಕೃತಿಗಳ ಕುರಿತಾದಂತಹ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ. ಇದನ್ನು ವಿದುಷಿ ಧಾತ್ರಿ ಕುಮಾರ್ ಅವರು ಪ್ರಸ್ತುತಪಡಿಸ್ತಾರೆ. ಇದರ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಬೈ ಪದ್ಮಶ್ರೀ ರುದ್ರಪಟ್ನಂ ಎನ್ ತ್ಯಾಗರಾಜನ್ ಸರ್. ರುದ್ರಪಟ್ನಂ ಎನ್ ತ್ಯಾಗರಾಜನ್ ಸರ್ ಅವರು ನಿರ್ದೇಶನ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತಹ ಸಲಹೌ ತಾಯೇ ಶ್ರೀ ಚಾಮುಂಡೇಶ್ವರಿ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಇರುತ್ತೆ 6:30 ಬಳಿಕ. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸಕಾಲಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಮಿಸಿ ಗುರುದೇವತಾ ಅನುಗ್ರಹಕ್ಕೆ ಪಾತ್ರರಾಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ. ಈಗ ಎಂದಿನಂತೆ ಮಂಗಳದೊಂದಿಗೆ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಸಂಪನ್ನವಾಗುತ್ತೆ.
ಮಂಗಳಂ ಗುರುಶ್ರೀ ಚಂದ್ರಮೌಳೀಶ್ವರಗೆ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಗಣಪತಿ ಶಾರದಾಂಬೆಗೆ ಶಂಕರಾಚಾರ್ಯರಿಗೆ ಕಾಲಭೈರವಗೆ ಕಾಳಿ ದುರ್ಗಿಗೆ ವೀರಧೀರ ಶೂರ ಹನುಮ ಮಾರುತಿ ಚರಣಕ್ಕೆ ಮಲ್ಲಿಕಾರ್ಜುನಗೆ ಚೆಲ್ವ ಜನಾರ್ದನಗೆ ಅಂಬಾ ಭವಾನಿ ಕಂಬದ ಗಣಪತಿ ಚಂಡಿ ಚಾಮುಂಡಿಗೆ ವಿದ್ಯಾರಣ್ಯರಿಗೆ ವಿದ್ಯಾಶಂಕರಗೆ ವಾಗೀಶ್ವರಿಗೆ ವಜ್ರದೇಹ ಗರುಡಾಂಜನೇಯರಿಗೆ ತುಂಗಭದ್ರೆಗೆ ಶೃಂಗನಿವಾಸಿನಿಗೆ ಶೃಂಗೇರಿಪುರದೊಳು ನೆಲೆಸಿರುವಂಥ ಶಾರದಾಂಬೆಗೆ ಸಚ್ಚಿದಾನಂದ ಶಿವ ಅಭಿನವ ನೃಸಿಂಹ ಭಾರತಿಗೆ ಚಂದ್ರಶೇಖರ ಭಾರತಿ ಗುರು ಸಾರ್ವಭೌಮರಿಗೆ ಚಂದ್ರಶೇಖರ ಭಾರತಿ ಗುರು ವಿದ್ಯಾತೀರ್ಥರಿಗೆ. ಚಂದ್ರಶೇಖರ ಭಾರತಿ ಗುರು ಭಾರತಿ ತೀರ್ಥರಿಗೆ. ಚಂದ್ರಶೇಖರ ಭಾರತಿ ವಿಧುಶೇಖರ ಭಾರತಿಗೆ. ಮಂಗಳಂ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಚಂದ್ರಮೌಳೀಶ್ವರಗೆ. ಶಕ್ತಿ ಗಣಪತಿ ಶಾರದಾಂಬೆಗೆ ಶಂಕರಾಚಾರ್ಯರಿಗೆ. ಶಕ್ತಿ ಗಣಪತಿ ಶಾರದಾಂಬೆಗೆ ಶಂಕರಾಚಾರ್ಯರಿಗೆ.